Let me introduce somebody who's really been steering the Indian economy and certainly, startups and all of that. Amitabh Kant, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Just wanted to get your reaction, your take on the Prime Minister's speech. Wasn't talking too much about come to India and make in India and invest in India. Some people thought that's what the speech should be almost entirely about. It was there in a small part. A lot of the rest of it was India's place on the global stage. Was that the right thing to do?
I think, Vikram, it was a spectacular speech, and it took India to another level because you're speaking at a global platform. I mean, you're speaking in Davos, where you had about 20 global leaders, you had all the top CEOs of the world, and the Prime Minister was talking about openness in trade. He was basically telling the world that trade liberalization has lifted vast segments of population above the poverty line. I mean, Americans have preached open markets for their multinational corporations. They've penetrated markets in emerging countries. And suddenly, when it comes to the services sector, you start talking about protectionism. So he was saying the markets, free trade works both ways. It works in production. It works in services sector as well, and he was talking about climate change, which is a huge moral issue, and he was talking about terrorism. So if you look at the audience there, I mean, if you're looking at the top leaders of the world, and if you look at the top CEOs of the world, it hit them at their heart.
Yeah, well, you were certainly preaching to the choir out here, right? This is the right place to come. And you come to Davos and you speak to the audience and you say, we are going to become a global leader in climate change. They all applaud. You tell them that we are going to be a primary moving force of globalization. They're delighted. Again, as I said, the Chinese premier spoke of globalization yesterday. One of the interesting reactions of that is, a lot of the reaction that you've seen is Modi trying to position himself as the anti-Trump. Now, he kicked off Davos. Trump is going to close Davos this time. And at least on climate change and globalization, he seems to have taken a diametrically opposite position to the one that Trump has taken.
Well, it was not a
Trump's the bad guy, we are the good guys.
No, I don't think it was a positioning of...
China's the bad guy, we are the good guys.
It's not a positioning vis-a-vis any other country. He was positioning India as a destination. He was positioning India's global perspective. He was putting India's worldview, and he was saying this is what India stands for. And I don't think we need to look at it from the perspective on any other country. He was giving a larger perspective of India, and that is what a great global leader should have done. And that's why I thought that his speech was way above any other speech that I've heard at Davos before, because it marked a quantum shift in terms of perspective, in terms of global outlook, and in terms of a world vision.
So that world vision was also reflected, and I wonder whether that was conscious when he was talking about, coming to India, which is fine, but he said as a partner, India does not have, historically, does not have a tendency to actually be in conflict with any of its partners. And there was a quiet, he didn't mention China, but there was an allusion to China and the way China has done some of its investments in other countries, which has been for Chinese benefit. He said when India invests or partners with other countries, it's keeping their priorities in mind. So that was seen as a clear dig at China.
Well, I don't think we need to look at in terms of China or America. And my personal view is that Prime Minister Modi, and in his concluding last portion of his speech, was largely devoted to saying that India is open for business. All of you have had a good experience in India, and whoever has come to India has gone back happy. And I think he reiterated this position in his interaction with the International Business Council of the WEF later in the day, where he said that all of them actually want to lift poverty. All of them want to work towards eradicating all the ills in society, and actually that huge opportunity in terms of health, education, nutrition, which India provides, no other country in the world would do.
Now, one last question. I mean, I think everyone here at Davos gets the potential of India, and they've got this for years. There's often been a buzz around India. 2003, 2004, there was a big buzz. 2007, 2008, big buzz. Keeps happening. Sometimes there's disappointment that India doesn't fully live up to its potential, and there's certainly disappointment about things like policy flip-flops, Vodafone, retrospective tax terrorism, including tax terrorism aimed at foreign companies. That causes concern. So, if perhaps not on the stage, but at least privately when you're meeting people, Are you assuring them that those are things of the past and that going forward it will not happen again?
So Vikram, there's a completely new perspective of India, and I think they realize that there's a completely new vibrancy and dynamism about India, and that's greatly to do with the fact that India has carried out very major structural reforms. I mean, no country in the world has carried out such huge structural reforms without, I mean, all of them have radically slowed down the economy, but India has continued to grow at substantial rates. And the fact that we've continued to open up our economy at a point of time when everybody is protecting its economy, India has opened up its economy, and we've opened up in such a big way that 95% of our FDI comes through the automatic route. And our FDI has grown by 62% at a point of time when globally FDI has fallen by 16%, and we are the #1 recipient of FDI in the world. So what we've demonstrated to the world that we'll carry out structural reforms, we'll push for financial inclusion, we'll focus on housing, electricity for all, and simultaneously we keep opening up our economy.